Oh, howdy all, grab yourself a beer, it's time for some Path of Exile discussion. Today I wanted to outline the Atlas strategy that I'm intending to start the Echoes of the Atlas expansion and the Ritual League with. So what I'm going to do here is outline where I want to put watchstones, why I want to put watchstones where I do, and why I want to skip some of them, and also give a bit of a sense as to how I intend to progress my Maven trees. So these are the new Atlas Ascendancy trees, in the two octants that I'm going to have a heavy focus on. So, this is the Atlas as it is going to stand in 3.13. This has helpfully been labelled by a Redditor named Curious Gerald, and I'll put a link to Curious Gerald's post in the description of this video. This has every map labelled with its actual name, so it's not just the image. This is what a 32 watchstone Atlas looks like. When you have less than 32 watchstones socketed, the Atlas will have less maps and some of them will be lower tiers. However, there's a couple of them of the specific octants that I want to point out reasons that I want to focus on them. So these are Ejoris in the northeast outer octant, and also the Valdo's Rest, which is the southeast inner octant. Now, the reasons for those are that they have some passive trees available to them that look like they'll be pretty good early in the league. So my initial plan is to progress the Atlas as I normally would. I may go all the way to acquiring all 32 regular watchstones, or alternately I may decide that I'm just going to sit a little bit below that. I'm going to need at least 24 of them for this strategy, so my standard progression approach is going to apply, and I'll put a link in the description below to the Atlas guide that I put out at the beginning of 3.10, because that will still cover how to get all of your watchstones. And what my strategy is going to be from there is in Ejoris. I'm going to be engaging with the Maven's new content. We've got to figure some of the fine details about this out, but this essentially requires you to fight multiple map bosses in an arena, and I'm going to pick the Pathological node first. So what Pathological does is it transforms the maps that drop in Ejoris maps to have a 10% chance to have one or more layers of Delirium already applied to them. This basically means that I'm getting a number of Delirium orb drops, although they're already applied to maps. So those will be useful. The reason that this is so good is that early on is the only time in your Atlas progression that you're really starved for maps, and every time that you do get a Delirious map, it tends to just have, well, it has so many more monsters in it that it has a real chance of giving you a whole lot of extra maps. The other points that I want to allocate here, I'm going to pick up Compulsive Hoarder, and I'm also going to pick up Time and Again early. Now, Time and Again is something that I'm going to use once I get to red maps, and the reason I want to pick up Time and Again is because of the 10% chance to generate an extra Elva mission when I kill a map boss. The reason that that's important is that ultimately, late in the league, I'm expecting to want to have a lot of Elva missions so that I can farm Corruption Chambers. I'm not actually going to spend these Elva missions very much at the moment, so that's the only investment I'm going to make in the Incursion tree. I'm also going to pick up Compulsive Hoarder. So Pathological and Compulsive Hoarder from the Delirium tree are the important nodes. Pathological is the absolute first one I'm picking up on the whole tree, but I'm just going to have to feel out when I'm playing whether I go for Time and Again first or Compulsive Hoarder first. I'm definitely skipping all the Metamorph stuff, but I'm going to then put my remaining Atlas Ascension points into the Perandus content here. This is, of course, subject to change if it turns out that Val Oligarchs is really good, because we don't know yet whether it's really good or not. So once I've got Prospero's Promise, I'm expecting to get Prospero's Promise as my 8th point. And this will be quite useful because it'll give me a chance to stockpile a bunch of Perandus coins, so that when I do get Friend of the Family, I'm in more of a position to actually buy anything good that Kadiro is offering. Not that he often offers good things, but with him showing the rarest of 5 chosen items, that's essentially a 5 times more multiplier to the number of really top offers that you get. So we're talking the Headhunters, we're talking the Mirrors of Kalandra, that sort of stuff. Those are always going to be rare still, but you're getting 5 times as many of them. That's a lot. So that's the plan for Ejoris. The plan for Valdo's Rest is to focus heavily on the Metamorph content. And the reason that I'm interested in Metamorph content here is because of the specific maps that are available in Valdo's Rest. A lot of them have multiple bosses, and multiple boss maps have tremendous synergy with Metamorph content, especially with the ability to assemble an additional Metamorph in areas after the first is dead. So what you're going to do with Repeated Experiment is when you successfully kill a Metamorph, your first Metamorph that you create in an area, you're not going to use both of the map bosses in it. You're going to use only one of the map bosses if it's a 2-boss map, and then you're going to use just whatever rewards you're interested in the other spots. Then you're going to create a second one, and this second one is also going to have a chance to drop various organs for your Metamorphs. Then additionally, we've got the high yield, which causes Metamorph bosses to drop an itemized sample to drop an additional itemized sample. Ultimately, between Repeated Experiment and high yield, I'm going to expect to get an average, well, actually to get a flat number of 4 Metamorph itemized samples every time that I kill every time that I have Metamorph encounters in a zone. Using this in conjunction with Intrinsic Darkness, I'll have a 20% baseline chance to have Metamorph monsters in a zone, but I can also use Metamorph Scarabs to jump that up to 100%. We don't know what these little nodes will do. We've got to find that out. So those are the key things that I want out of Valdo's Rest. And like I said, it's the synergy with the multiple boss maps, and we'll have a look at what the actual maps are that make that so useful. As for the other 4 points, this is a spot where we can be really flexible. And I haven't made a decision as to which other 4 points to take. A lot of it's going to come down to how good Diplomatic Escort turns out to be. If Diplomatic Escort is good, then I'll take it. If it's not good, then I can take anything. Maybe the Immortal Syndicate bonuses, because those are pretty strong. So, in terms of the maps, and this is a big factor in the decisions that we've been making. So, we have Promenade, double boss map. Very good layout, and so this is really good for Metamorph. We have City Square, triple boss map, the single best map on the entire Atlas for Metamorph content. We have Arena, which I can't remember whether Arena is the one with 3 bosses or the one with 1. It's a terrible layout, but if it is the 3-boss one, which I've got to find out when I next run an Arena, then it's something that's at least serviceable for the plan. We've got Canyon, which is a 2-boss map. So we've got a lot of multiple boss maps, and that's really useful. Additionally, you'll sometimes just roll twinned on something like an Arid Lake or an Ashenwood, which is also another source of a 2-boss map, which is really good with the strategy of farming up lots of Metamorphs. The reason that we care about these Metamorph itemized samples is that killing Metamorphs in Tane's lab drops a lot of loot, and it can be done fast. So that's the rationale behind everything in Valdo's Rest. Over in Ejoris, there's a couple of maps that are really spectacular. So we have Burial Chambers, drops the most important divination card in the game, the Doctor. Now the Doctor is very rare, but keep in mind that some of your Burial Chambers that drop for you will already be 20% delirious, some may even be 40% or more delirious than that. So they will have a massive increase in the number of monsters present. Then we've got a bunch of really smooth maps like Beach. We've got Alleyways is really smooth. We've got Waste Pool and Armory are both really smooth layouts. Additionally, Alleyways has a premium divination card. I can't remember whether it's the Hoarder or the Saint's Treasure, but it's one of the Exalted Orb divination cards drops there. And then you've got a couple of okay maps. Bog is pretty good. Conservatory is okay. Dig is okay. Primordial Pool is okay. So there's just a lot of really good layouts in the Burial Chambers. In the Burial Chambers Octant in Ejoris. Now, the reason that we are going to be setting it up so that we're having... so we're going to have 4 watchstones in Burial Chamber Octant and in the City Square Octant, so Valdo's Rest and Ejoris. Everywhere else we're going to have 3. And the reason for that is that we want Awakening level 6. 6 is as high as we can get, whilst making sure that every tier 15 and 16 map that drops for us is going to be in one of our preferred Octants. So every time a tier 15 map drops, it will either be in Valdo's Rest or in Ejoris. Every time a 16 drops, it will be in one of these 2. If we get a tier 16 map that we don't want to run, we know from the way that from the item filter information that was released today that every time that you apply a Horizon Orb to a tier 16 map that is not Burial Chambers, you will have a 1 in 3 chance of that map becoming a Burial Chamber. So this is really useful. It's going to cost you an average of 3 Horizon Orbs to turn any undesired tier 16 into a Burial Chamber. And just a quick correction on that, it's 1 in 3 if it's a natural tier 16, 1 in 4 if it's a map that is not naturally a tier 16, but it will be an average of 3 point something. It'll be between 3 and 4. If your map is not one of the natural tier 16s. In Valdo's Rest, we also have a lot of maps that will drop will be good. And the last thing that's important is that when your maps drop Delirious, and that's because of the Pathological node, when you get a Delirious map, this can now be shown on a loot filter, so it will pop up as something that will jump out at you as a sort of a special map drop. And these drops will obey your Atlas. So all of your tier 15 and tier 16 maps will be in the 2 octants that you want to specialize in. Anyway, that's my League Start plans so far as the Atlas goes for early endgame play. Ultimately, I expect I'll probably go back to Awakening level 8 in the longer term, but that's how I'm intending to start. If you've got any comments or questions, fire away below. Otherwise, I'm going to leave it there, and I hope you have a good one.